Welcome, Buff fans. Matt and I just can't stop, getting together and talking about all this stuff because there's a whole lot going on. And for a non-game week, Matt, we're doing a lot of talking. But this is award season, and this is kind of the culmination of a lot of stuff throughout the season. And so, you and I wanted to get together and chat about all conference. The coaches voted on their all conference. AP will be out next week, but the coaches voted on all conference today, and we wanted to react to that because here you have Shedeur Sanders, Offensive Player of the Year in the Big 12, and Travis Hunter, Defensive Player of the Year in the Big 12.
Yeah, I mean, not that big of a surprise, I
No.
guess, at least for us. I did see some ASU fans doing a little hand wringing over Camp Scatterbo not being named OPOY, but Shador is the system here in Colorado, right? In
Yeah.
Boulder, without him, everything looks completely different. And when Travis wins the Heisman, he'll have had a lot to do with that. And you bring up Travis, Defensive Player of the Year. I mean, I'm glad that he got that. Of course, he is. There wasn't some sort of stupid statistical reason, but he was just far and away the most dominant Defensive Player of the Year, not only in the conference but in the country as well. And he was also given honorable mention Offensive Player of the Year, which, if you take a
Yeah.
second and think about that, it's a little wild. He's honorable mention Offensive Player of the Year, and he was the Defensive Player of the Year, first team, both sides. It's impressive.
Yeah, it really is. And I don't know how much more we can say about Travis Hunter, although we're going to have to come up with a lot over the next couple of weeks as he wins the Heisman, we think. But yeah, just tremendous honor. And, I've thought a lot today about the preseason All Big 12 team, and Travis was voted. This is by media as the preseason player of the year, defensive player of the year, and Shador the preseason first team quarterback, not offensive player of the year, but the quarterback. And but they were picked 11th. And I remember tweeting out, I'll tell you what, if Colorado has the first team all conference quarterback and the defensive player of the year, they are not going to be 11th in the conference. Well, here they are, offensive player of the year, defensive player of the year, and they're tied for first.
Yeah, yeah. It's just again, we talk about being led by two superstars, and that's what it has been, right? Just extremely fortunate, extremely appreciative. And not only again, Shador first team, I would give him first team AP. I know they're not because Gabriel's undefeated, but he is the best quarterback in the country, the Unitas winner, and who knows what else. I was worried though, Bry, that they were going to snub him for all those. I thought a lot of those were going to go to Cam and Dylan just because of the better record overall. But
Yeah.
obviously, in the Big 12, here's the thing: if we're just keeping it to the conference, he was so much better than every quarterback in the Big 12, almost
Right.
combined,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah.
That Scatabo, I mean, you also had Giddens and Brooks and Pryor and Kiner and, Devin Neal and all these guys who can really tote the rock. And, to me, the gap between Shadur and the next closest quarterback is like the Grand Canyon in this conference. And I would say the same as far as defensive player with Travis and everybody else. I mean, nobody impacts that side of the ball like he does.
Yeah, I would say probably closer on defensive player of the year than quarterback, but it's not taking anything away from Travis. But I mean, I'm looking at first team all conference, and yeah, I mean Brendan Mott is pretty darn good for Kansas State. There's some good guys, but I think very deserving Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders. And you're right. Uh, I think you and I were discussing with like a month left in the season, like who would be the second team all conference quarterback, and it's like
Who did they give it to?
Sam Levitt of Arizona State,
Okay.
and
Okay.
he's had a really good year. He was not the starter coming at the start of the year for them. At the time, I think it was you and I were talking about it. We thought uh, Ratzlaff from BYU because they were
Yeah.
undefeated, but they didn't finish undefeated. And Sawyer Robertson of Baylor was probably I might have gone with him at second team. I mean, remember, he was not their starter at the beginning of the year either, and he was kind of subbing. I don't even remember who the guy was.
Daquan Finn.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He was kind of subbing for them when they came to Boulder, and he's been phenomenal ever since. So he's played really well. So, but yeah, I think very deserving. I think you know fans always they want to look at okay who was snubbed. I do think there was not as much consideration given to some other buffs for all conference, and BJ Green first team all conference, very well deserved. We need to mention he's the defensive newcomer of the year, very well deserved for him. But they were, let's see, it was somebody else second team, right?
Nakai.
Nikai Hill Green. Nikai Hill Green was the only buff second team, and I was surprised by that.
Yeah, there were a few things that surprised me. BJ Green was named preseason first team All Big 12, right? And, BJ came on later in the season, finished what, 7.5 sacks, led the team there.
Yeah.
I was a little surprised to see his name pop up first team, if I'm being honest with you. Like, he had a really good back half of the year, and I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it. He definitely was incredibly impactful, but Arden Walker was great. I wouldn't necessarily like point to one. I think that whole group as a unit was good.
Yeah.
However, that being said, there were a couple games there where he was extremely impactful and had some really big moments. So I understand that. I was a little surprised Nakai didn't make first team, honestly.
Yeah.
But Bentley maybe I thought could have gotten a look at second team. DJ McKinney I thought should have probably been a look at second team. Maybe even Hodge and Cam. But
Oh,
I
Cam
would
for
say,
sure.
yeah. Outside of that, I don't know. I there were a lot of tweeners. Like there were a lot. They had a ton of honorable mentions because they had a
Yeah.
lot of guys that were right on that list. I even thought there were a couple honorable mention snubs.
Yeah. And if there was one other guy that I would say second team, LeJonte.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, that one was curious because it was Josh Kelly and then the kid from TCU, Beck, right? Who
Yep.
made second team wide
Jack
receiver.
Beck and then Jaden Higgins for Iowa State.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they're all really good receivers, but I thought LeJonte was, you know, to say he's not one of the top six receivers in this conference, I think is wrong.
I would agree with you there. Yeah, I would
So,
agree with you there. But I
but
mean the other guys, those are their number ones at all their places, right?
right. Yeah.
So I
So
kind of get that.
I don't have a big problem with it. Like it's, they're all really good receivers, but I just think LeJonte, and we're biased, but I think LeJonte is one of the top six in the conference.
We
Honorable
should also
mention.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
was
go
going to
ahead.
say we should also mention that he was honorable mention offensive newcomer of the year as well.
Yes. And so let me go through the honorable mention list. Preston Hodge, Travis Hunter for offensive player of the year, as you mentioned. Alejandro Mata at kicker, Taj McCoy for defensive freshman of the year. Well deserved there. DJ McKinney at defensive back, Chidozie defensive lineman of the year, but also honorable mention for the defensive line.
Defensive
Jordan's
newcomer, right?
no defensive lineman of the year is what it says.
Really? That's an award they gave out?
Yeah, defensive lineman of the year.
Oh, I didn't see that one. Who won
Yeah,
that?
Brendan Mott of Kansas State. He's
Oh,
pretty
okay.
good. Yeah,
Yeah, they got BYU's got a beast too.
yeah, the Tyler Batty kid is pretty
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
But Chidozie was honorable mention for that. Also honorable mention just for being on the defensive line. Jordan Seaton, offensive freshman of the year. He was honorable mention, also offensive line. I think that's a good spot for Jordan. I think that I don't think he was a first team all conference type of player, but I think getting some recognition is deserved. Cam Silman Craig for defensive back, Mark Vassar for punter, and LeJonte, as you mentioned, offensive newcomer of the year and receiver. So
And Mata.
yeah, I mentioned Mata.
Oh, did you? Okay,
Yeah,
sorry. Just
yeah.
had to make sure. I heard Vassett and then I didn't hear
Oh,
Mata
okay.
after that.
Yeah,
Oh,
Mata
yeah.
Mata was
Yeah.
early on that list, but
I don't
um,
really have a huge problem with a lot of those. I'd agree with you about Seaton. I mean, maybe he might get freshman All-American honors for that position. I would imagine that he gets that. I don't
yeah,
believe he's getting All-American honors, but freshman I could
no,
see.
he won't get All American on it, especially if you're honorable mention in the Big 12.
Yeah.
You're not
No,
getting
no,
All
no.
American. But I'm trying to see. There were no freshman offensive linemen on the first or second team for the Big 12. So yeah, he's one of the best freshman offensive linemen. We know that.
He'll be
Is there
there soon.
yeah? Is there anybody else that you think should have received honorable mention on this team?
Mhm. If Amari McNeil had been able to string together a few more games, he was on a good path at the end of the year before he got hurt.
Yeah, that was like a 2-3 game stretch though for him.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I said. If he'd been able to string together a few more, I feel like that there wasn't a ton of competition. I wasn't all that impressed by the trench play altogether in this conference this year defensively. Like there were some
Right.
impactful guys, but there were not a ton of like game breakers on that side of the ball. I don't know. I don't have a huge problem with the rest of it. Do you?
No, I think Levante had a nice year. He did
Yeah.
not statistically have the year he had last year, but I think a lot of that's because Nakai took some of those tackles. We've talked about it that Levante was having to make so many tackles and impactful plays last year because he was I think far and away their best front seven guy. Whereas this year, I
Yeah.
don't think he dropped off, but I think he had a lot of help. But I think Levante was an honorable mention all conference type of player. Um,
He led them
our
in sacks last year.
Yeah, and well, I think Dominic led him. I think he was top two, wasn't
Oh,
he?
that's right. I don't know. I thought he had five.
He
Maybe
might
he
have.
did.
I don't know, but he
Yeah.
was up there TFLs and sacks. Um, I could make a case for Arden Walker the way he played this year, maybe honorable mention type of player. But yeah, other than that, I don't really have a problem with it. Shiloh was so up and down, and he was injured for a good part of the year. But there was times that Shiloh played like an all conference type of player. But I think he was too inconsistent, especially with the injury. But yeah, I don't really have a problem with the
I
rest
think
of
the
it.
only other thing a lot of fans I saw on social media were reacting to was that Kenny Dillingham at Arizona State was named Coach of the Year and Coach Prime was not in the conference. But I mean, you and I would have both voted for Dillingham in this
Yeah.
instance. That's a
Mhm.
program that just came off NCAA sanctions. Nobody, I mean, they were picked to finish last
Yeah.
in the Big 12 conference, and
Yep.
he's got them in the championship game. It is an incredible turnaround that Coach Prime has done. But I would wager if you were to ask
Yeah.
Coach Prime who his vote would go to, it would be Kenny as well.
Well, listen, Kenny's on the short list for National Coach of the Year, and some people will put Coach Prime on there. Um,
He
uh,
deserves to be a finalist, in my
yeah,
opinion.
I would put Coach Prime on the list, but yeah, to me, and I do have a vote. I'm going to vote in the AP All Big 12, and I'm fine saying it. My vote for Coach of the Year will go to Dillingham because
Yeah.
I just think he's deserving of it because of what you said. And it's no disrespect to Coach Prime. What
No.
he's done is amazing. But like you said, Dillingham, you could argue over which is more difficult, coming into Colorado off of what they were or coming into ASU off of sanctions. And, you're restricted by certain things that and remember last year, I think it was last year, wasn't it? Yeah, it was last year that they're in fall camp and find out sanctions come up and that their AD imposed a bowl ban. And
Yep.
so now Dillingham, his very first year as a young head coach, has to tell his players in fall camp, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to you seniors that are here to try to go to a bowl game. You're not going to go to one no matter how good we are. And they weren't good enough last year. But the stuff he's dealt with, I think, has been really difficult in the early part of his tenure. And and again, we mentioned his quarterback was not even the starter at the beginning of the year. He rolled with a freshman quarterback and is in the Big 12 title game.
Is he a red shirt, Levitt? I think he might be.
He might be, but still, I mean, it's
No, it doesn't matter. I just was clarify. It was just for clarification purposes.
no, it's a good
I had somebody
question.
reach out. I had somebody reach out to me. Go, how can you win Freshman of the Year if you're a redshirt freshman? And I was like, I mean, I get it, but you're still technically a freshman. So I mean,
Yeah,
that's kind of how
because if
this
you're a
works.
redshirt freshman, it's your first year playing. It's
Well, unless you played 4 games last year.
Yeah, but it's kind of like there's a rookie threshold like in Major
Oh,
League
I get
Baseball
it.
too,
I understand why.
I
You
know
know,
you're not
yeah.
arguing with me, but
But
um
that's anyway. That would be the other one. And yeah, I mean, you bring up Dillingham. He's doing that without the real high profile talent. I mean, what
yeah.
they have done. You got a lot of hard hat and lunch pail guys down there. I mean, they have all bought in, and he runs a hell of a system. And Scadaboo, as I said, he's the people's champ. He's the people's Heisman this year.
Yeah, no question. Levitt, by the way, he was at Michigan State last year and transferred in.
Okay, did he
Played in
play?
four games.
So he did. Okay.
He threw 23 passes. So
Oh, I wouldn't disqualify him for
and
that.
no, no, no.
I was just noting that it is interesting. You don't normally see that either.
Yeah, so I mean, honestly, credit to Kenny Dillingham. He did an amazing job, and I think Coach Prime's would be my number two choice
Easy,
for
easy.
that award. But I think Kenny is. I
He
think
made
I
the
think
title game.
I think Dillingham's the easy choice for that one.
Yeah.
But Coach Prime would be number two. So yeah, I don't think Coach Prime's a snub on there at all. Really good year, but Arizona State's in the title game. So
I'm
yeah.
with you, buddy.
Anything else? We do want to mention real quick bowl game. Um, again, nothing's really changed from when we last talked about it, other than you know me, Matt. I dive into things maybe sometimes too much, and I'm looking at it, and yeah, I was texting you last night. I was like, I am looking at this and thinking ASU could be a real possibility for the Alamo Bowl because the Alamo has always taken the highest ranked team available to them from the Big 12 and the Pac 12. and that will be ASU. And regardless of how ASU does this week, they're going to be, 5 or 6 spots higher in the CFP rankings than Colorado when they come out on Sunday. And so, if the Alamo goes with tradition, they take the highest ranked team available to them. That would be ASU. So, for those fans that want to go to San Diego instead of San Antonio, root for Iowa State because now Iowa State could win. ASU's 5 spots ahead of Colorado, and the holidays or the Alamo still says, but we want the Heisman Trophy winner, Shedeur Sanders and Deion Sanders, and they should. But they're your only hope, fans of going to San Diego, would be Iowa State winning that game on Saturday.
Yeah, I'm going to operate off of our assumption that no matter what happens, if the Alamo has the option of picking Colorado, they're going to do that,
Yeah.
especially this year. If there were ever a year to make an exception to that rule, it would be this year for Colorado because I don't really care. I mean, they're going to outdraw ASU no matter where they are. But hey, if they want to go ahead and do that, sounds good. I would
Yeah.
love that. I mean, that would be wonderful. At this point, I mean, gloves are kind of off here. We all want to go to San Diego for Christmas. Okay, I don't know what else to say. We'll go to San Antonio, but if we could pick, it would obviously be California. And you bring up we brought up kind of before we started that they have their biggest alumni base in Southern California, and that would
Yep.
be a huge draw. So I don't think they would be complaining about that one bit whatsoever. Now that being said, I still go back to you can have some hope that it's going to be the holiday, but assume Alamo until otherwise informed is kind of how I would proceed here.
Yeah, there are people within the building up at CU that would prefer to be in San Diego. I know that. And so, but yeah, the alumni based thing, obviously, that would be a really nice bonus if you can get to the Holiday Bowl out in front. I mean, imagine a bowl game, in front of your biggest alumni base. And there's great benefits to Texas too, because obviously, there's the recruiting aspect, right? And, somebody pointed out to me a couple weeks ago, well, I think you want the holiday for recruiting purposes. Not under this coach. If people have noticed,
Yeah.
this was the second straight class, not a single California player, which is actually stunning. When you look at the history
Stunning.
of recruiting here, that they're no longer really recruiting in California. I think there was 3 guys in that first class that Coach Prime had, the one that he put together in like 3 weeks after getting the job, half of which he was still coaching Jackson State. They don't recruit California; they recruit Texas and farther east, right? East and south. So Texas would be a better deal for them recruiting wise. Plus, it's just a little hop, skip, and a jump from the old compound there that Deion Sanders has. So
Yeah, they recruit what they know. This staff
yeah,
specifically,
yeah,
they don't really. I mean, a lot of staffs do,
and
but
it
you
works.
definitely haven't.
That's
It
what you
has
do.
it has cleaned
Yeah,
up for them. So if it ain't broke, but at the same time, we always used to hear L.A. You gotta hit L.A. You know what I
right.
mean? You gotta
Yeah,
hammer L.A. So
and here they don't, and they're 9-3 and going to a nice bowl
what
wherever
does
it
that
is.
say? What does that say about California kids?
Well, I don't know what it says about California kids. What it says is there's talent. There's a ton of talent in Texas and Florida and Georgia,
Oh, I know.
and that's what this staff wants. And
I'm with you. Hey,
yeah,
and when you play in that conference, probably a good idea to, I mean, we've been to Texas a lot here lately,
right.
so it's probably not a bad thing to have kids that call that home.
And if you're the Alamo too, it's going to be a great game. I mean, it's a great matchup. You're going to have a top 25 matchup, and um, I've been sort of rooting for the CU BYU game because that would be like the secondary Big 12 title game, right? You'd have you have ISU in one and BYU CU in the other, and then let's have the winners play each other. That's the real title.
It's the last time to see Shedeur and Travis play. That's what I know.
Yeah, and who
And the
knows
rest of them.
how long? Real quick, we want to make this short, but real quick, how long do you think they'll play?
What do you mean?
Do you think they'll play the full game?
Well, I think it depends. Yeah, I think it depends. I don't see why not. I mean, unless they're just blowing them out and the other
Yeah,
team has a bunch of opt-outs. Again, that's the other part of this is we don't know how the other team is going to handle it too. I do
right.
think there's going to be some pressure on the other team not to opt out with all of Colorado's guys going. I
Yeah,
really do actually think that'll have a little bit of an impact, but maybe it doesn't because a lot of these guys know that, hey, if we go get cooked by Travis and Shedeur, that's probably not a great, lasting image to have on tape because scouts will be watching, but I don't
true.
know. I guess we'll see.
Well, we'll discuss that more when we find out what bowl it is. And we're going to find out on Sunday. The bowl, the CFP selection shows at 10 a.m. Mountain. And then shortly after that, we should know probably by around noon or 1 o'clock on Sunday where the Buffs are actually going. So stay tuned for that. But there's our reaction to all conference. Very well deserved. Shedeur and Travis, you can see the little things behind me. Shedeur and Travis, offensive and defensive players of the year.
One quick question on the final note. Do you have any fun nuggets? I know you're always like the fun little crumbs stats guy. Is there any fun all conference nuggets you have?
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know if you're like teasing me for things I just tweeted, but this is the third. I don't know if you saw it, third time in CU history that they've had the conference offensive and defensive players of the year, and the previous times were '89 with Darian Hagan and Alfred Williams, and '90 with Eric Bieniemy and Alfred Williams.
Wow.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And Shedeur is the first team all conference quarterback at CU since Coy Detmer in 1996.
That says a lot about the quarterback play by and large that we've seen in Boulder for a long time. There's been a couple good
Yeah.
ones, but it's been largely mediocre.
Let me ask you this: in between Coy and Shedeur, there's only one quarterback at CU that was even second team all conference. Who would that be?
Ooh, that's a good question. I mean, there's a couple of candidates. It would either be Joel, Cepho. I doubt Steven because they never finished a season well enough. And then wasn't who Oaks maybe? No,
Nope.
no. Who else? I don't know. Those would be the only names that came to mind.
Right. This
Yeah.
one will surprise you. Sam Neuer
Oh, that's right.
in 2020, the pandemic shortened season when they only played 5 games, and you know Sam played that year injured. He had a really good first 3 games.
Really good.
The
Yeah.
last two, his shoulder. I'm not sure he could feel his shoulder, and they weren't as good. Um,
Can we
but
add a quick note?
yeah,
And for CU fans who are new over the last couple of years, understand this that Sam Neuer at one point was also converted to safety.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
So the Buffs had a quarterback converted to safety, then back to quarterback. And in between, he had left the program and then come back.
right,
Unbelievable story about Sam.
yeah. And actually, it was before that season actually, because remember it was after 2019 when Tucker leaves and Neuer, because Tucker had moved Neuer to safety, and Tucker leaves, so Neuer's like, yeah, I'm done here, and so he was going to leave, goes in the transfer portal. Carl Durrell gets hired, and Darren Chiaverini, the offensive coordinator, convinces Sam, say, dude, we need you, man.
We're
We
screwed. Yeah.
we just come compete for this job. And so Sam's like, fine. So he comes back, competes for it, wins it, second team all conference, then hops in the portal and goes to Oregon State for his last year. Sam Neuer, one of my favorite Buffs, by the way, really, really good young man. And I actually saw him like the tweet when I mentioned his name in there. So it was
That's funny.
really
He's
good
a
young
good guy.
man. And he didn't get to play a ton at Colorado, but that season when he got his chance, he played really well. So yeah, Coy Detmer, Sam Neuer, Shedeur Sanders, all in the same breath over the last 20 years.
That's pretty
30
impressive.
years. 30 years.
And that Sam story goes to show you just never know what life has in store around the corner for you, right? Just got to
Keep
remain open to it.
keep working, right?
Yep. Absolutely.
Awesome, man. Hey, we'll talk to you soon, and I'm sure there'll be something else to react to at some point soon. But Buff fans will be back at least when the bowl announcement comes up, and we'll talk about that.